Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles making multiple roster moves on this Saturday in the lead up to Tuesday's deadline, in which all 32 teams across the NFL have to cut their rosters down to 53 players. We're seeing this movement across the NFL where there's been a wave of releases today, and that'll happen over the next couple of days. The early wave of this to allow some of these players who didn't make the team with the teams that they were playing for in the preseason to latch on with a different team across the National Football League. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior, coming to you from home because anytime the Eagles make a move, anytime there's big news out there, we bring you the latest regardless of where I am, and that's why you hit that subscribe button, because if you want to stay in the know with everything that transpires with this football team, I have you covered here on the show. So, according to Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network, he said this just a little while ago, that the Eagles are releasing veteran tight end Dan Arnold per source. Arnold, only 28 years old. Philly is doing the vet a solid by getting him out of there before the rush. And this isn't the only move that the Eagles are making at that tight end spot, and not the only release. This coming as a little bit of a surprise, but we talked about this after the preseason finale, that most likely Philadelphia is going to move forward with 3 tight ends on the 53-man roster. I'm sad to see this player go because I'm bullish on his ability as well as his potential. The Eagles, according to Pelissero, also waiving tight end Tyree Jackson per source, an intriguing athlete who had 5 catches for 72 yards in the preseason and could get claimed elsewhere. Now, if Tyree Jackson doesn't get claimed by another team, wouldn't surprise me to see him come back, because he has been a developmental project that the Eagles have taken pride in over the last couple of years. And after that final preseason game, I thought we had a pretty solid indication of where the Eagles roster stood at the tight end position. And I thought that because they're so deep at multiple positions across that roster, they were probably going to have 3 tight ends on the opening 53 with Dallas Goedert, Jack Stoll, and Grant Calcaterra. Dallas Goedert, we all know, still slept on as one of the best tight ends in the league, but after George Kittle, I think he's the second best all-around tight end in the league. When you factor in pass catching and blocking, he's so elite at both, and I think he's in store for a really big season. I've talked about how I'd like to see Philadelphia use him a little bit more in the red zone. As far as the Eagles' red zone efficiency, they struggled a little bit in the red area, and I think that Goddard, with A.J. Brown, with Devontae Smith, with the ground game, and Jalen Hurts and his running ability, could unlock a different dimension as soon as the Eagles get inside the 20. So I think that as a run blocker, as a pass catcher, he could have a monster season, hopefully surpass 1,000 receiving yards for the first time in his career while not taking away from what Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown can do. Jack Stoll is a really serviceable backup tight end who's used more so as an inline blocker. The Eagles do like to use a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets, and that's where Stoll comes into play. And then Grant Calcaterra, drafted by this team a couple of years ago. The long strides, good athleticism, good pass catcher. I'm not going to say he's similar to Tyree Jackson, but I think the Eagles look at those 2 players as 2 players who fill similar roles for a team. So those are the 3 who are going to make this 53 now, and it looks like Philadelphia is going to run with 3 tight ends on the opening 53. Maybe Tyree Jackson comes back for the practice squad. For Arnold, longtime veteran journeyman, and when he came to the Eagles, I said this at the time after the signing, it was most likely that he was going to be on the outside looking in as a guy who wasn't going to make this team. But Jackson is definitely a pretty intriguing player who's been a nice developmental story and piece for the Eagles. A couple of years ago, tore his ACL. I thought he was starting to make some strides then. He came back last year, and because there was a little bit of a logjam at that tight end spot, wasn't really able to get on the field. But a freak athlete as a quarterback who played at Buffalo, who's converted to tight end, I think that he can certainly play in this league, and I think that we've seen that throughout his preseason games over the last few years with Philadelphia. More Eagles roster news here. The Eagles also closing the book on Ian Book. I'm sorry, I had to do it. We can be a little bit corny on this Saturday. We all saw this coming as well, given the rise of Tanner McKee and how he's played as that late-round pick out of Stanford who blew everybody away, including me, with the timing, the anticipation, the touch on his throws, the back shoulder ball, some of the high-level quarterbacking instincts that he has. He's clearly a better player and a better quarterback prospect as compared to Ian Book. Better size, better arm, better quarterback attributes. Tanner McKee was so good in the preseason that we had the conversation at some point, could he unseat Marcus Mariota as the backup quarterback to Jalen Hurts? I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. As for Marcus Mariota and his future, more on him in a minute. Book was with the team all last year. You wonder if the Eagles do bring him back to the practice squad. What he does give you as like a scout team practice squad quarterback, very athletic. He was very athletic at Notre Dame, and when you go up against a very mobile quarterback in this league, he helps you prepare for those types of situations, and he knows the offense really well. So if the Eagles brought him back to the practice squad, that wouldn't shock me just because of his pure knowledge of this offense. Or will Philadelphia look to bring in another quarterback on the practice squad? Philadelphia also releasing offensive lineman Tyrese Robinson. So those are the roster moves that have taken place for the Eagles here today. And I'm going to try to pop up my tweet deck here to see if they've made any more moves as I've been relaying this news here. If they do, I'll of course pass that along here on the show. As for Marcus Mariota, an interesting conversation here because he didn't really do anything to impress anybody throughout training camp because he really struggled. And then in the preseason, he wasn't all that good. The running ability is there. The speed is there. When you run that read option and you run some of that zone read, he's always been good at that. And that goes back to his success that he had at Oregon when he was playing with Chip Kelly. And that's why he won the Heisman Trophy partially. And that's why a lot of Eagles fans at the time wanted Chip to draft Mariota to pair those two up because they had worked with one another. Now, I do think that if Mariota were to get drafted by Chip Kelly, his NFL career could have looked a little bit different, but other teams did catch up to what Chip Kelly was doing with this scheme, with the system, with the fast-paced offense. As soon as they were able to up the stamina a little bit, that Eagles offense wasn't the same, and they also caught on to the scheme, and Chip Kelly was just crazy for getting rid of talent, thinking the system was going to win. He inherited a loaded offense of Jeremy Maclin, Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, absolutely fraudulent for him to get rid of all those players, thinking that it was going to be the system that would win, when in reality, oftentimes, it comes down to talent as well. So if Mariota went to Philadelphia at the time as a rookie, him and Chip Kelly, could they have worked because of the similarities and the familiarity with that offense? Maybe. But one thing has remained consistent in Mariota's career: hasn't really been a good thrower of the football. Touch accuracy, long ball, the arm strength really isn't elite. It's somewhat mediocre. Again, the running ability is always there, but you win in this league by consistently being able to make throws. And Mariota in training camp has misfired a lot. He's been inaccurate, and he's thrown a lot of high passes, which is a danger zone that leads to tip balls and interceptions. We saw that in the second preseason game as well as in training camp. And NFL.com saying that Mariota could be, quote, at risk of being cut. I don't think that's going to happen. I know we've talked about replacing Mariota with a different quarterback out there. I don't think that Philadelphia, just because they gave him $5 million in guaranteed money, should keep him on this team just because of the guaranteed money that they paid him. If there's a better option out there, then they should think about bringing in a better option at backup quarterback because of the importance of that position. But are there better options out there? And can you go with Tanner McKee, a rookie, with the Super Bowl contending team, even though he's been really good, as a backup to Jalen Hurts right now? I think that right now, the Eagles are going to have Mariota on this 53-man roster. Would it shock me if they let him go, ate that money, and tried to bring in a better backup quarterback elsewhere? It would not shock me. But my read on the situation, given what Nick Sirianni has said, and Brian Johnson and Mariota still starting every single preseason game up to this point, for that matter, I think he is going to be on this team. I think it's a little bit of a stretch from NFL.com to say he could be at risk of being cut. the seat is hot. That's no doubt. And I don't know if he has a long-standing future in this league after this upcoming season, because I think teams know what he is, maybe as a backup quarterback. If he's a QB3, we'll see. But certainly an interesting situation to keep our eyes peeled out for as we approach Tuesday's roster cutdown with some of these other quarterbacks who might get released from other teams who the Eagles might view as an upgrade over Mariota. And how about more quarterback news for backups in this division? Dallas Cowboys shredding a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance. Pretty interesting stuff right there. That tells me that Dallas not fully sold that Dak Prescott is going to be their guy for the future. So those are the Eagles roster moves I wanted to pass along here on this Saturday. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, and keep it locked here for year-round and daily updates on the Birds.